How's it going, everyone? Nate here with Roof Korean Concepts, here to talk about the new enclosed optic from Swampfox, the Kraken. First off, what's my relationship with Swampfox? Well, this optic was sent to me for free. I didn't have to pay for it. It was sent to me for T&E. I did get to meet the media manager for Swampfox out at GunCon 2022 back in June. That was hosted by the Gun Collective out at Brownells in Iowa. We got to talk. He's a post-certified instructor just like myself and my colleague Hutton. And so we really hit it off. We got to talk to him. We're probably going to go out and train with him and hang out at some point in September. But this optic was sent to me, so this is more of an overview. That being said, I am honest when it comes to gear, and I will give my honest thoughts about it as we go along. So enclosed optics. If you've been running optics, you probably have seen this kind of meta shift towards enclosed optics. It started with the Aimpoint ACRO, then Holosun came out with the 509T, and then Steiner came out with the MPS, and ACRO came out with the P2, or the second generation of the ACRO. And now Swampfox has hit the market with their enclosed optic called the Kraken. Now, what's the big deal about it? So one of the downsides to open top optics is that the emitter is exposed to the elements, meaning it can actually be impeded by dirt, debris, lint, or anything like that. If it's raining or snowing, you can also get basically light artifacts all over your optic because the light, the LED, is refracted through all of those elements if something gets in front of the emitter. With an enclosed optic, just like on rifles, you basically have everything housed inside of the optic body, and if any kind of contaminant gets on the screens, all you have to do is wipe it away. So you can see that the Kraken is fully enclosed. It has glass on both ends, and the emitter is protected inside the optic body. Compared to something like this is the Swampfox Liberty and Ironsides that's also on loan to me for T&E, but it is an open top, and the emitter is actually back here right on the back of the optic. But if I were to put something in front of it, it would prevent the dot from reflecting off of the pane of glass. So that is a downside. You can get dirt or debris in there, prevent the optic from functioning the way it's supposed to. You'll notice right off the bat, it's a fairly large optic. Again, comparing it to something like the Liberty, you can see that the footprint is quite a bit taller. And so those are some things you need to consider if you are getting an enclosed optic, but that tends to be the case with any enclosed optic. Generally speaking, having a pistol direct milled for an enclosed optic is better because it allows it to sit lower. The Kraken has a battery life of approximately 8,000 hours on medium setting. It goes down from there if you run it on high. It does have a shake awake feature, meaning if you let this sit long enough, it will turn itself off, and as soon as it senses any motion, it'll turn back on. I really like what they've done in terms of the construction. You have a very thick aluminum body. You have your actual primary glass on the inside. You can see one pane is angled backwards for the reflex, and you've got a pane in the back. And outside of both of those, you have safety glass on the front and back that act as a countermeasure. If there is an impact on the front or the rear of the optic, that safety glass will break first and ideally would keep your primary panes of glass intact so you can continue shooting. The safety glass is recessed very slightly into the body, not a whole lot, but if I did have to rack this off of a barricade or off of my holster during a one-handed manipulation, it should be good to go. In terms of the mount, it comes with two different plates. One of them has an RMR footprint. Now, it should be noted that if you're trying to mount it on a pistol that has the two recoil bosses or the two screw bases that come up like what the Zev slide has, it will not work. Those will actually impede because your screws will bottom out before the plate is actually secured to the pistol. So it needs to be one that has, it can have just the front recoil bosses, but it cannot have the screw posts in the middle. It uses basically what's like a mini modified Picatinny to attach the optic to the plate. Unfortunately, it is not compatible with either the Holosun or the ACRO slots, so it is a proprietary in terms of how the optic actually mounts to the plate itself. I've actually talked to the Swampfox guys and said, hey, it would be really smart to try and make one that uses the ACRO pattern so that people aren't having to buy a whole bunch of different kind of mounts. But it is what it is right now. When you buy the optic, it does come with 2 plates. One of them is an RMR footprint, and then the other is for MOS, so it'll directly go onto the MOS slot on an MOS Glock. So far I haven't really had any issue. You do have to make sure you torque it to spec and do the Loctite as they suggest, torquing it to 12 to 15 inch-pounds and then using some blue Loctite to hold it in place. When I first put it on the Glock, I didn't torque it properly. It did shift a little bit. I went and torqued it. It was fine after that. Now, I haven't done a drop test or anything like that on this optic yet. I'm sure Aaron Cohen with Sage Dynamics will do one eventually, but also Swampfox has some videos of them just beating the ever-living shit out of one of their optics, and it continues to run. So there is that. You can go watch that. I'll put the link in the description. I've run this on a Glock, I've run this on an AK, and I've run this now on this FNX Tactical. It does have a noticeable notch filter. That is that kind of bluish tint that you get on the actual glass. This helps it to extend the battery life somewhat because it basically filters out certain colors of light and allows it to reflect back that red color easier, which means it uses less power to actually operate. But it is a pretty noticeable notch filter. Also, having 4 panes of glass, essentially, it does present a somewhat noticeable fisheye effect and a little bit of magnification. Not a big deal when you're shooting at fairly close ranges because you shouldn't be looking at what's happening to the dot anyway. You should be threat focused, but I did notice some issues when I was shooting at basically 12-inch steel targets. They're like light gray colored. I was shooting at distance on a slightly overcast day, and through the optic with the notch filter, the fisheye effect, and that little bit of magnification, it was somewhat difficult to pick up the contrast of the steel target against the backdrop on that day. So I'm sure there were some other factors involved like the lighting and stuff like that, but it is what it is, and I'm just letting you guys know what I experienced. So final thoughts on the Kraken. I think if you're looking to get into an enclosed optic and you're looking for a more budget-friendly option, the Kraken might be the way to go. I think the MSRP is like $389, which means I think the street price is going to be lower than most of the competitors for getting into the enclosed optic. Just be aware of how you're going to be mounting it. Don't forget that you can't run it on a slide that has the screw posts. It does have an RMR footprint plate and an MOS footprint plate. Decent battery life, but you'll have to change it more often than something like an RMR because, again, 8,000 hours on medium is not super great, but it does have the shake awake. Crisp dot, robust construction. Guys, give it a try. You can learn more at Swampfox Optics on their website. But other than that, stay safe, carry on. I'm Nate with Roof Korean Concepts. I'll see you on the roof.